Hello, everyone. I am back with what you've been waiting for. Let's talk about Wade Wilson again. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Shadow Circus. Alright, so y'all have heard a lot about holes in this story, holes in this case, and everybody keeps wanting me to say, what do I think? What's the holes about? Why do I keep saying that? So I guess more than anything, I want to say that whenever I look at these cases and I say there's holes and I start trying to point out inconsistencies and things that are said and things that are seen, I want to lead people to the things that I see, but not just outright say it. Because I really don't lean one way or the other in these cases. I'm not whatever they're saying. I'm not Team Wade. I'm not Team Not Wade. I don't even know what the terms are everybody's using, but I'm not either one. I am Team present the facts of a case. I'm on the team of I would love to know the real story and everything that happened. That's the team that I'm on. If there are other people that are involved in a case, I think that should come to light. If there are other things that are involved that lead to things happening, that are things that need to be shown, things that need to be seen. So with that being said, there are so many inconsistencies in this case. There are, whether that be they don't want to show stuff because the police have dropped the ball on the way they handled investigation, on the way they handled evidence, whether that be police are involved in some type of ring that they speak about in this case, so that they want to help cover up the crimes of other people. Whatever these things are, they need to come to light. The things that I'm stressing and the things that I'm talking about, the things I want to bring to everybody's attention, I'm not trying to sway anybody's thinking. I'm not trying to sway anybody's opinion about what to think. Only thing I'm saying and I'm showing is there are inconsistencies. You can draw off of that and make the conclusions that you want to make upon that. This video, this podcast that I'm doing tonight, I have no notes. I'm just speaking. I'm going purely off my memory of the things that I can remember that I've looked into on this. And I wanted it to be that way because the things that really stick out in your memory and the things you remember like that, especially on inconsistencies, just goes to kind of show for me of how significant these things are. So let's get into this. So let's start with, well, I guess I can't really start without addressing things now that body cam footage has been out, now that interrogation footage has been out, phone calls that have came out. And I'll be quite honest with you, the phone calls thing, I really haven't listened to a lot of the newer ones because to me, the ones after I started listening to the ones that just became this drama, which a lot of people absolutely love it, but it had nothing to do with this case. It seemed like it became more of a drama of it's more of a character drama. Let's put it like that. Nothing that was being talked about in the phone calls, nothing that was being addressed in there really swayed my opinion one way or the other. I mean, I was shown the same thing over and over again. So if there are some phone calls that have significant relevance, significant meaning, throw them in the comments. Maybe I need to go listen to some more of them, but I haven't listened to any of the ones as of recent. Interrogation footage, or I say interrogation, more of interview footage from after Wade was arrested. All of those, I've watched them. I've watched every one of them. I've watched them all one time. I did not go into no kind of let's watch it over and over and overanalyze it or any of that. I watched it for what it was. Let's start with inconsistencies. Let's start with missing evidence and inconsistencies. I'm going to speak on that first. The depositions that come out, for anybody that don't know what the deposition is this is not a police interview. It's a deposition that is the lawyers. It's interviews that they do and that they conduct leading up to the trial. So they are not police interviews. But I find it very, very odd of why it was over 100 depositions that were conducted. Only 28 of them were actually filed. And through those 28, I've read every one of them. And through those, a few of them were very, very insignificant. Some of them had a lot of very interesting information in them. But I found it very odd that if you're going to have the deposition done, and this is information leading up to trial, if you're going to have somebody out of the depositions that you did on the stand at trial under oath, it seems like the deposition that you conducted and the person spoke about, being that they're under oath while doing the deposition as well, that it would be filed with it. Jason's is not there. And Jason is a very, very key witness on this. So his deposition being missing is a huge red flag to me. And it makes it even more of a red flag with him when you have a detective on the stand as well. And when they're asked what happened to a cell phone, being another key piece of evidence in this trial, is missing, and the detective that says it's missing received said phone from the person that the deposition is also, I'm not going to say missing, but not filed, where we have access to it. So why was that not filed? What did he say in there? Like I said before, is this something to do with police cover-up? Is it something to do with that? But why is that gone? Why is this phone? So I can't speak about this phone without also bringing up the fact of, while listening to the interview after Wade was arrested, he made the comment that he did not have a cell phone. He said that he used Mila's cell phone, and if he had anybody's number or anything like that, he would have to use her cell phone to enter it in. As you go through these, even when you hear any kind of story, you have to take this into account. With every story, it don't matter if there's lies involved or not, there are still specks of truth in there to go along with it. So if he did not have a cell phone, that's one thing. But the detective, Jason, said he gave the detective the cell phone. The detective said she can't remember who received the cell phone. But there's other people that speak about a cell phone, even though Wade said he didn't have a cell phone in the interview. Or he said he didn't have a phone. It's just, those are huge inconsistencies. Those are things that need to be matched up. When the detective saying that she didn't know if it was her or somebody else, that's just very, very red flag to me. Because in something like this, there's a chain of custody. Whoever takes the cell phone is going to log it. It's going to go into a chain of custody. Very, very odd for this one particular piece to go missing. But I digress. So from there, we're going to stay on the topic of depositions for a moment. So going through these and building my timeline of everything that was in here to have to do with him, when the whole thing started, the timeline made no sense to me. It really didn't. But after I got into the depositions and got to reading, I started building the timeline off everything that's there. And from what I found and what I see, the timeline could make sense. The timeline could absolutely make sense. He could have been in certain places at certain times. And he could have been at every one of these places to commit the crimes at the times. But what doesn't make sense about it is, for one, we have the house that he hid in the backyard. She ran home. She sees him in the backyard. I'm not going to go into the details of everything that happened. I think we all know where we're at on that at this point. But she did make the comment that when he got ready to leave, she took a picture of the tag and the car. Yeah, we know he was in this Versa, but you also had the detective calling it, I don't remember what she was calling it, but she wasn't calling it a Versa. She was calling it something else. I think a Honda. I think she was calling it a Honda. So even if she was confused on the car, that's not a big issue at this point. But you had some inconsistencies in the cars. You had the one woman that she was outside picking up pond fronds. She saw him. The way she described the car was totally different from the car that he was in. But she saw him. There was multiple people. He talked about seeing her. She talked about it. There's other people to verify these timelines of things. The woman in the backyard, she said she took a picture of the tag. She called the police, her friend that was a police officer. And what transpired from there was, through the deposition, she said that Wade contacted her from jail. It kind of went from there. So, down that rabbit hole of that. But if she had a picture of the tag of the car, just about every car that there is, manufacturers are very good about putting the name of the car, the brand, all that is on the back of the vehicle. It's free advertisement. Unless you take those badges off, they're there. Why don't we have this picture? Why don't we have the picture where we can see the tag, we can see the car, we can see the tag, we can see these things? It's just further proof of places that he was at. Why have we not seen this picture? If it's out there, I haven't seen it. If somebody has, please feel free, share, jump in the comments, let me know. There is the house that he went to. As I said before, I don't have my notes right here. This is all off pure memory. He goes to a house where he went by to borrow a phone charger. The guy touched the phone. So whenever they were doing the deposition, he said that's the reason his fingerprints were on this phone. I don't know if it was supposed to have been Christine's phone or Diane's phone, but either way, that's the way his fingerprints got on the phone. Why was this not brought up? Yes, this could be very insignificant, but it is all part of painting this whole picture of everything that's there. This also helps to create the timeline of where he was at and what was going on. I've heard over and over that he's had plenty of time to sit around and make up this whole entire story about a sex trafficking ring, and that he's had time to make up this whole story. If he's sat around and had time to make up this whole story also, the guy that touched the cell phone, his wife, also said it was days before that he was over there at their house bragging about working for a prostitution ring or some kind of sex ring. I don't remember the words, but You see where I'm going with this? He was already talking about that being that it was happening. So it wasn't just a total fabricated story made up while he's sitting in jail. He had spoke about this before. The reason I bring this up, whether it's directly or indirectly, there are other people involved for both of these women ultimately being killed. Whether that be these people, I don't know, we're going to play plot twist of some sort. What if they just wanted Wade gone? Like everybody draws this whole entire plan out, like if they wanted to get rid of Wade, they could have just killed him. So what if it had nothing to do with somebody else killed the women? Could have been Wade, killed both of them. I'm not convinced there's not other people involved because of the lack of evidence and the lack of police investigation and the lack of presenting evidence. So, with that said, what if they know when he's on drugs that things go bad? He's got a history. We know the history. Every time he's on drugs, things go south. So what if they made sure, what if Jason's in on this, whoever, but what if they made sure, let's get him on whatever these drugs are. Let's create this recipe for disaster. So they make sure he's on drugs. They were going to create this perfect storm so that something will happen. It wasn't about that people in the organization killed somebody and framed him for doing it as well. What if they didn't have to do it? They could set everything up in this perfect storm for that to happen. But also with that being said is, what if somebody else was involved in helping in some shape or form? Or if they were to, did people go back and check on what happened? Because there's a third DNA that was not tested, was not found who it belonged to with Christine. There was also a separate car. There was a whole different car where Diane's body was. There was a bluish silver car, I think is the way that they described it, that they saw at the scene where Diane's body was found. Were people going back to whichever scenario you want to look at this as somebody framed him, somebody helped him, or somebody went back to check on the job was done? But there was another car. Even the tire tracks did not match up. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think they were 58 inch. I think it was a 58 inch wheelbase on the tire tracks. Or 62. I don't know. The two numbers that are sticking out in my head right now are 58 and 62. So I think it was a 62 inch wheelbase of the tire tracks at the scene. But the Versa is a 58 inch wheelbase. For anybody that don't know what I'm speaking about, is where the tires touch the ground and they leave the tire tracks. So if you measured from the inside tire track to the inside of the tire track, that would have been 62 inches. The Versa's footprint, so what I mean by footprint is if you rolled the Versa through some dirt, that's the footprint it leaves there. It would have measured 58. That's a 4-inch difference. That's some of the inconsistencies so far. Some of the other things that that really didn't add up to me is throughout studying other cases, every case is different. I'm good with that. But throughout other cases I've ever studied, if you had somebody that committed murder, especially serial killers, some of them they would take back out to go find bodies. Yeah, they would make them show it on a map before they ever left sometimes. But just like in a case like this, if you had, in his confession that he gave, he was telling them that he wanted some McDonald's. He wanted some French fries and whatever from McDonald's. But they had to take him out there for him to go show them that he wasn't going to show it on a map. That's not if they were really looking that hard and they could not find the body, if they had already found her, that's one thing. You're just kind of leading him on, trying to get more information, so on and so forth. But if you haven't found the body, that wouldn't be a very hard thing to load somebody up and take them out there and let them show you. Because even if they did that, that just further solidifies their crime. That further solidifies what they've done. At that point in time, I don't know if they had found the body yet. I think it was 3 days. I don't remember off the top of my head. And I don't know when the confession was 1 or 2 days after. So if I remember right, they had not found her body yet at that point in time. There are also the parts of after they leave the club, the phone calls, things of that nature. I've heard a bunch of people say that whenever Mila was doing her interview, that she was saying that Jason's mother's number was on her phone. I've seen people in comments saying, well, why does she have her number already programmed into her phone? You don't have to have a number programmed into your phone for the caller ID to show it. So that part I don't really have issues with whatsoever. Mila also made the comment with that everybody in her group knew Christine. So she found it odd that she didn't. I find that kind of odd because all of them are so close. If everybody else knew her, how did she not? And speaking on that matter, we're going to talk about Josh for a second. So with Josh said that him and Wade didn't know each other, really. They knew each other in passing, even though Wade refers to him as one of his buddies. And in Mila's deposition, she spoke about Josh calling, I think it was on 2 separate occasions, wanting her to go hang out with him and Wade because they were going out for the night and stuff. So, I mean, Josh is, I don't know what all's going on with the things that Josh says, but Josh lies time and time again. If he's not lying, he has such a horrible memory that it's not even a joke. Because even in his deposition, I mean, in the matter of, I don't know how long his was, we'll say between 20 and 30 minute deposition, his story changed of when Wade showed up there with him. He said Wade showed up and he looked like he had blood all over him. Yet there's not blood all over him. From everything I've seen, what other people say, the woman behind the fence said nothing about it. The woman that was picking up the palm fronds that went by her pool in the back and the lanai, nothing about him being covered in blood. None of those. And I'm gonna go ahead and say this. One of the things both of those women talk about also was when they saw Wade, he was insisting on a high five. The woman in the lanai said he had his hand up and he's like, high five, and she mimicked giving a high five. The woman behind the fence said he insisted on a high five before he left also. That right there kind of, that's the thing about what I'm talking about is about all the stories, everything coming out about everything, that just more solidifies it was him. If he's doing the same thing, it's the same person at these same places. Descriptions are the same except for he had shorts on, khaki shorts on with a woman by the pool. Josh, his story changed several times. From it was he got out of the vehicle, come straight to him. He got out of the vehicle, went in the shop. His stories changed every time he say it. It changes. And everything he says changes. Both of the women with the high five thing, they said they noticed his hands were scratched up. We all know about the scratched up hands. So listening to the whole timeline I spoke of. So whenever I listened to the timeline, I was building the timeline out. I listened to Wade's confession, his interview, his confession, all that stuff. And as I said before, even if somebody's lying, there are specks of truth in a lie. It's just getting everything out there where you can pick out where the truths are actually at. Through Wade's timeline of the things he was talking about went on, it made no sense to me if when he had Diane, I don't even remember where it came from, that he choked Diane while driving. I could not see that happening whatsoever. But when he gave his confession, he said it was when she went to get out, and that's where the purse was at as well. That would make sense if she turned to get out and he got her from behind. All that adds up. I mean, that's it adds up. It could that could be viable. All of this, everything, and all of these inconsistencies, they keep leading back to there are other people involved. As I said before, whether it's directly or indirectly, what I mean by that is whether somebody helped him to kill either of the women, both of the women, whether somebody made sure he was on drugs because they knew he would do something stupid, whether they came back to check on what happened. Every one of these places, it doesn't add up. What I'm getting at, so whenever I say a fair trial, what that means is if you're going to try somebody, especially if you're going to put somebody on death row, every bit of evidence, everything that's there should be there. So if there are other people that are directly or indirectly involved with Christine or Diane's murder, they need to be found accountable as well. Because both of these women, for them to have the justice that should be served, everybody that's involved with their death should be held accountable. And I fully believe that if all the evidence is laid out, whether it be sloppy police work, whether it be a prostitution, sex trafficking ring, whatever it may be that goes along with this, there are other people. If he had a fair trial, quote unquote fair trial, where all the evidence comes out, other people, and I'm not saying they're going to catch charges for murder, but there are other charges to be had that directly are involved with this whole entire situation that happened. Who those people are and how much direct involvement they have, don't know. The evidence would tell that. But the evidence, all of the evidence, has to be shown. And if all the evidence was shown, more things would happen. So with those being said, I'm sure I'm missing some of the things. As I said, I don't have notes in front of me. This is purely off the top of my head, just speaking on this right now. And I can't speak on this without also addressing the interview with Marie, or as we all know now, Jessie. So Jessie has said she has a lawyer secured now. I don't recall his name. Offerman, I don't know. Y'all will correct me, I'm sure. But she says she has secured a lawyer. Or I say she. That's the team. So I'm going to be honest with you. I fully hope that this lawyer digs into it. I fully hope that the appeal goes through. If anybody don't know how these work, on a death row, there's an automatic appeal that's going to happen. So I hope that it gets approved. I hope there's a trial. And I hope all of the evidence is shown. And when all the evidence is shown, the people are charged for what they need to be charged for, and the verdict is said, then let the chips fall where they may. Do I think, and I'll address this because I know what people's going to say in the comment, do I think Wade is innocent or guilty? I'm not the judge. I'm not the jury. What I think, honestly, doesn't mean anything because I'm neither one of those. But do I think that he is skated by very, very lightly for the charges that's been brought before him in previous matters as well? I think so. I do hope there's a trial. I do hope all the evidence comes out. And I do hope that we get to find out what the entire true story actually is. Because with that would come true justice for Christine and Diane and their families. Because I could tell you, if this happened to somebody in my family, I wouldn't want to try to wrap it up in a pretty little box and throw a bow on it and throw it to the side. I would want to know what actually happened and for all the people involved to go down for it. Directly or indirectly. If people make sure he's on drugs to do something stupid, that is a indirect, direct involvement. Well, everyone, that's kind of where I stand on this. Those are some of the inconsistencies, which I know a lot of people already know what these inconsistencies are, but they wanted to hear me say it. So whenever I look at cases, I found it very, very interesting to find the true stories of these cases and the true stories about behind what's going on. And with this, y'all have heard me say it 1,000 times, the holes are there. We need the facts. We need the evidence. Put the whole story together just like it is. And I guess with that, I'm done for now. Not done with the case, but I'm done with this episode for now. Thank you, everybody, for the likes, subscribes, the new channels here. This will be doing current event. I'll still be doing Wade Wilson stuff as well, because there's going to be things coming up. I'm thinking about covering the Diddy case. Would y'all like to hear me dig into the Diddy case and see what I can find on it? If you do, drop in the comments. Let me hear it. But as I said, thank you for the likes. Thank you for the subscribes. Thank you for supporting the channel. Until then, y'all have a good night.